Great job, a lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Welcome. It is indeed a fantastic Friday. And what better way to celebrate our democracy than to get things in high gear? Please stay tuned for today's edition as we invite you to be a part of our ongoing discussion. We have a good conversation with Miss Michelle Lockwood. Hopefully Mario Rankin gets the car parked and finds his way in. Maybe security let him through. I don't know. When we come back, let's see. Stay tuned. Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you so much. Anytime you can offer me any counsel, guidance, direction, you can be a guide or a guide, go right ahead. Anything that improves my lot, makes me a better person, be happy to take it on board. With that, I'm honored to be in a good company of Miss Michelle Lockwood. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
It's good to see you and people like yourselves, and by that, I simply mean young, very, not just ambitious, intelligent, but very determined, grounded Caymanians who are looking not just today, tomorrow, not just 10 years, but like how, the cathedral builders of way back used to look a long time down the road. And that's where we need to be. So, people like yourselves are very encouraging,
Thank you. I think that's really important what you said, actually, because that is kind of part of the reason why we're looking, at Save Cayman in general, and as well with the Cruise Port referendum. It's not just for now. It's not just for the benefits for now. It's the benefits for 25 years from now, for 50 years from now. I was talking to a gentleman before, and we were sort of talking about, to me, we need a national development plan. We need something concrete, something that is maintained and updated accordingly, and takes account of the environment, as well as other things, our infrastructure, what is our capacity. We can't just kind of go headstrong with certain things if we just don't have we only have so much land mass, right? We only have so much of the sea life that we can protect. So to me, it's important to protect it. And all over the world, people are looking more and more at protecting things. I mean, I know in the U.S. it's a bit different, but, we're looking at so many other countries are signing on to like global agreements to help with the environment and our in general, our carbon footprint. And I think this is the time for Cayman to kind of step into the 21st century and stay with it.
Stay with it. And that word sustainability, we hear it often in many, many, many facets. We understand now that I call it the planning department, on the auspices or whichever, there's going to be some expectation of a road trip where they're going to be going through the country, hopefully, and talking about, hopefully more than just the height of buildings, but what is this national development plan looking like? Something that I did in preparing for our discussion, and I don't like when it isn't as exhaustive or as inclusive as I like it to be. But speaking to young people, so those who are under 25, I would even say only under 22, but one was almost 25. One was almost 25. And a lot of them, two things were very, very evident. All, it was not many, but all in that small subset of the population concerned about what are we doing now and how is that going to affect us down the road. Them, their economics, their social sort of harmony and the like. And the second thing is, they seem to be unaware of whether there is a development plan whether there was a development plan. So I say, well, there was a 1977 development plan and regulations, out of the early 70s and 75. No, I'm no expert on it either. And you could see their eyebrows furrowing, and they're like, really? How do I see this? Is it online? Thinking, this generation is more than online. Right?
Yeah.
It's not online. So
it's digital.
Yeah. Is that a failure on the part of our society not to make things accessible? Is it also a failure on the part of, say, the younger ones of saying, well, I dig through the archives, let me go into the libraries. But there are two things there, but you take one first.
I don't really know how to comment on that. I mean, I think, I've been having this conversation a lot lately about democracy, and democracy is obviously, to me, one of the best systems of government that we can have, right?
You sure?
But in terms of for it to work, it requires the whole entire population to be educated. Not just in educated as in you go through school. Informed, yeah. So that you are able to understand the discussions that are happening. And, I've been thinking about this more and more as I've gotten more. Unfortunately, I don't want to say I'm involved in politics because I have no desires, I have no political aspirations at all. But thinking about how I was when I first started voting, when I was able to vote. So I was able to vote right after Ivan. So I voted in those 2005 elections.
Should have been 2004, but anyway.
Yeah, it should have been, but I voted in the 2005 elections. That's when we all started. But I remember I remember being very, very pushed very hard on me. You need to go and vote. You need to go. And I remember being terrified because I was like, nope, I don't want all this responsibility. And equally, I didn't want the responsibility of having jury duty. I really did not. And I still don't want to say that I want to go sit on a jury or anything like that. Yeah. But equally, to me, it's my civic duty. It's for me to be able to sit here and talk and question the government, I need to also pay back in my own way. So to me, that's how I look at the jury duty aspect of it. But I'm so much more informed, and I know that's just a natural progression. As you get older, you start to learn more things. I'm so much more informed than I was when I first started voting. But to me, I don't think when I was 18 and I was registered to vote initially, that it was really taught to me either in school or even with my mom, what it meant and what exactly I needed to think through and how it affected me. And to me, our youth that's what the future is, right? Our future is all in our hands of the youth. So I think we do need to be focusing more on making things more accessible and, making students and young people more aware of what's happening in their government and in their lives.
See, this is where I think, and as I listen to you, I think we're continually failing ourselves and we're failing future generations. We're not embracing them. We're not giving them the opportunity to become more included. This thing that we talk about, you should be seen, not heard. Thank God I didn't have that in my environment growing up. Now, it was expected. I presume it probably was very effectively conveyed. You be respectful to your elders. Right? And if not, there are going to be, consequences. But that never came to that because you understood that was part and parcel. Not just the yes, sirs and no ma'ams and the thank yous and pleases, but, sitting in company and acting appropriately or removing yourself if it wasn't there and not questioning certain things. But having said that, when it came to voting for me, I couldn't wait to vote. I remember not being 18 and going in and inquiring, oh no, you can't vote. You won't be eligible. The election's going to be this time down the road, and you're not going to be 18 by the date. And I'm thinking, huh? But when the election rolls around, I will be 18. You're going to be making a decision that affects me. I want to be a part of this thing. I was excited to be it, and so I thought most people thought that way too. But like what you shared, they didn't because they weren't included. They weren't given an opportunity to maybe hear some of the things that were being said. Yeah. And that's where we're failing.
And I think as well too, a lot of people just feel, particularly with elections, I feel people are like, oh, well, what's the point in voting? It's just more of the same. But equally, I think a lot more people are realizing the importance of registering to vote in being able to sign the referendum that we have right now, because there are so many people that are like, no, we can't have that, but they're not registered to vote. So I think we've pushed a lot of people going into the elections office and getting registered to vote, like who were able to vote before but didn't because, like they said, they just didn't see the point. They didn't see the difference in the change. But even if you don't see the difference in the change and you choose not to go out on that particular day to vote, at least you're registered to vote. And at least when it comes down to the referendum, and if we have to go to the polls about the decision about the cruise birthing facility, you're able to stand out there and you're able to make your voice heard. And one of the things that one of the ladies at the elections office said to me was that when she was recruiting, when the elections were happening in 2017, that she was going out and she was talking to young people and they were like, oh no, I don't want to vote. I don't want to be able to do that. And she sort of said, well, do you want me making the decisions for you for the rest of my life? Because that's what you're leaving it to. If you're not registered to vote, then I'm the only one that's being represented when I go out to the polls, which means I'm making the decisions because I've effectively put in that particular person that you might not have wanted to put in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I think that to me that was a really interesting thing that she said, and I think that's really potent. And again, it goes back to education, making sure that our young people are involved in our discussions and that they feel that they can be included and that their voice can be heard. I see Mario coming now, but
is he bringing food?
I don't know.
If he's not,
but Mario and I went to UCCI in September, and again, that was a very interesting conversation with young people. That they were like, "Well, what's the point? What's the point of us?"
See, this is the problem why I don't like cameras in the studio. Mario, put on your shirt, please. I'm only kidding. But hopefully I got someone's attention to start listening, because I think this discussion is one that has to be had.
Yeah.
Michelle Lockwood, Mario Rankin joins us. And, for whatever flack I may take, whatever, accusations leveled at you for keeping my company and saying being a bad company, well, so be it.
Lots of bad company. You see this one next to me?
The one to your left?
We've been victimized for being a ridiculous one.
Yeah. But the thing is, and I'll say two things that may be construed as political. One, very political. Every single person in this country who's eligible to vote, please get registered to vote.
Exactly.
That's my political statement without any question. I take licks for that. If you're eligible to vote, get registered to vote.
Agreed.
On election day, on an issue of national importance, you can have a say if you choose.
Yeah.
If you choose not to
go,
that's fine. You want to go fishing, that's fine. But at least you have that option. So many people. And as we bring Mario into the discussion, and those that are listening, certainly feel free to call and share your thoughts. But when I speak to people like Mr. Loxler Banks, Captain Dale Banks, and the other veterans and seafarers, and they tell us, about the wars and the threats and rumors of war, and you realize the freedoms, right, that we have because of the sacrifices. I mean, the ultimate sacrifice of so many. I'm not taking this for granted, man. I want to be an active part of this thing. But the second thing, though, as I said, I'm looking at people in this country who are not Caymanian yet. They're anxious to want to be able to vote, to get to be a part of this thing. And yet the Caymanians who are eligible, not so sure.
Yeah.
Personally, what I experienced through this process is that when we engage with a lot of younger Caymanians who are eligible to vote, who happen to not be registered to vote, when they found out that they couldn't be a part of this process, they were very disappointed, which is what motivated them to go and get registered. So a lot of young people have been going now and getting registered simply because they realize that being registered to vote doesn't only mean that you must vote every 4 years. That means you'll be a part of constitutional processes, such as referendums and petitions. So you can't participate if you're not registered to vote. Yeah. So they realize that it's a broader spectrum of responsibility being registered as opposed to just being able to vote on election day.
Can I ask you guys something, right? And this isn't meant to test you or to put you on the spot in which way, form, or fashion, right? And it's probably my second political comment of the day. How old do you have to be? Two-part question. To be eligible to vote, right? 18, right? How old do you have to be to stand for election, to be a candidate? So you satisfy all the other criteria, whatever it is, color of your skin, how your hair is shaped, all those things. You satisfy all those things. How old do you have to be to be eligible to be an elected member of the Legislative Assembly?
I firmly believe, and I'm starting to be corrected, but I think once you're eligible to register, you're eligible to run.
Okay. I like what you said. I want, right? Could we give a prize? Okay, you're not getting lunch with Susan or muffin from anybody else. Anybody who's listening, right? I think I know the answer. Well, I know the answer.
Is it 25?
And I would like someone, only for two reasons. I just want to make sure that we got it right. What is the age that you have to be in this country to stand for election? It's not 25. It's not 18.
Is it 35?
Or is it 18 or is it 25? The person that first calls and gives us the correct answer. All right? Susan said we're going to take a break. And there's a reason why I ask, and like I say it just like what Mario said. If you can vote at 18, should you not also be eligible to be a candidate? Just a question. All right? Remember, what was the count in New York sometime back?
It's like employment, Sterling. If you're old enough to go out to hold a job, then you're old enough to be considered as an adult. But in Cayman, you're not considered an adult till you're 18.
Well, there's so many ages, right?
But it's against the law to employ somebody legally at 16.
Yeah, and you can consent to certain things at one age and be, criminally culpable at another age, but you can't drive until another age, but you can't drink until another age, and all these different ages, right?
Well, the reason why we allow drinking at 18 is because we encourage the tourism business, and that's what it is. Because I can assure you that if we had the best interests of our young people at heart, we would have we'd have drinking age at 21. But because we're viewed as a grand tourist destination, and a lot of people come here because they could drink at 18 and they can't do it in their own country. That's one of the biggest pulls during spring break and all those times. But anyway, let's take our break. Question
on the table for two reasons. One, we want to know, and secondly, who's out there listening? Who wants to shake things up and see what apples fall from this mango tree? 949-837 or 1-800-534-8255. What is the age that you have to be in order to be an elected member of the Legislative Assembly? I want to know. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
I didn't mean to hurt her. Work was tough. We're struggling financially. I had a few drinks to relax, but then the argument started. It was a mistake to hit her. Now I don't have a job. I don't have a wife. I can't afford to feed my family. This was a hard lesson to learn. Never forget that walking away from something unhealthy is brave. Stop to slap. Stop the cycle. Stop the violence.
The Stop the Slap campaign, proudly sponsored by Foster's IGA. Stop the slap. Stop the cycle. Stop the violence.
Who's the leader in savings?
It's Foster's. How about this for a New Year's resolution? Live to eat. Yep, live to eat. Don't just eat to live. Find the balance between going crazy for that indulgently creamy made-from-scratch cake and knowing just how many nuts will make for a good, naturally healthy snack in between meals. Slow down and take in all the joys of food in your life this year and live to eat with Foster's IGA. Follow along for tips and more this year as we live to eat in 2019.
At Foster's Food Fair IGA, we care.
It's Christmas fun for all with the Flow Quad Play Bundle for a year and weekly draws for Samsung soundbars. To win, sign up for any Flow service, including our new Quad Play Bundle. Top up $25 or more or pay your bill on time and in full. Our Quad Play Bundle is filled with the fastest broadband, HD quality Flow Evo TV, excellent mobile call quality, and home phone with up to 2,800 international minutes. With over $40,000 in prizes, that's fun for all with Flow. Visit discoverflow.ky for more. Terms and conditions apply.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. 949-837 or 1-800-534-8255. Glad that Mario Rankin and Michelle Lockwood joins us. And Mario, something that you said at the outset that I think many people acknowledge and sadly accept. You're victimized, penalized, ostracized, and otherwise castigated, maligned, and all the negative things because somebody, right, takes a stand that seems to be a little bit, not the color of the day. And if you're experiencing that individually or personally or collectively, out there listening, do you think that somebody else is feeling the same way? And what are we going to do about that? Why let it continue? Why do we accept it?
Well, when we look at victimization and public scrutiny about what any one individual say about any one topic, what I found in Cayman and in our society is that we have a lot of individuals out there who are very critical of persons like myself, Michelle, and anybody else who takes up a cause because we feel like it's in the best interest of the Cayman Islands. Whether it's from an environmental standpoint, whether it's from an infrastructural standpoint, whether it's from a holistic, all of those things collectively together. Then we have those people out there who are out there down crying and down swearing in their own little circles. Well, why Mario always on the radio making noise, or why Michelle or Johan or whoever, right? But they're the same individuals who cry the loudest, who do the least. But yet, they're the same ones that benefit just the same as everybody else once we accomplish what we accomplish. Because with this particular initiative, this is not geared towards any one small sector. This is not geared towards any one set of individuals. This is not geared towards one individual, period. This is a matter of national importance, hence the reason why we were able to trigger a petition, to trigger a referendum. Secondly, there is a multitude of groups who have gotten together in order to fight this particular cause. And it's really depressing to me personally to know that here you have a grand cross-section of individuals in our society who have expressed their concerns about a project, but we are somehow being perceived to be the bad guy or the objectors or the people who just have to object just for objecting's sake. When we lay out the issues here, when Michelle go into, well, here's why this affects us from an environmental standpoint. She's not saying that because that's something she's saying just in order to have as ammunition to fight something. She's saying that from a background of a wealth of information and factual information that simply lays out, if you dredge 26 acres in our harbor, you're going to potentially damage all of the marine life around it and even down the West Bay Road. We do not know that for certain that it won't. We do know for certain that 26 acres is gone forever. We'll never get it back. And the residual effects from that will always reoccur because we're not Mother Nature. We didn't build the corals. We didn't design the corals. We didn't plant the corals. So for us to assume that what we're going to do and the impact we're going to have on what we do by what we do is going to be okay because there's 10 scientist group that said, well, in this location or in that location we were successful or we weren't so successful. We're in the Cayman Islands. If you show me one other Cayman Islands that is identical to us, that has a pair, that dredged 26 acres and everything is all humpty-dory, then I can buy into it. So for saying that, I make no apologies to no one in this country or beyond or in the shadows for when I get out and I fight for what I believe is right for the Cayman Islands and our people.
But with that, I mean, the notion, you hear it many, many times from different people, not just the politically motivated, whether they were candidates or former politicians, just people generally speaking, and not even those on a work permit, not even those that work for government. If they say something that seems to be a little bit controversial, they're beaten up for it. It's not a democracy then, is it?
Well, Michelle, you jump in at any time. But I want to tell you what's frustrating for me, Sterling, is that if we go all the way back 20 years and we look at all of the initiatives that governments have put in place in order to safeguard the continuity of inward bound investment, right? If we look at all the efforts and all the monies that has been spent to gear towards that, and then we was to compare that against monies and efforts and initiatives that has been put in place to help the average person in this country, we would probably lose our mind. We're listening to people like McKeever talking about 50-story buildings and he want to attract the mega wealthy. When we got people in Cayman that have to count the dollars and cents to see whether or not they can pay the light bill, water bill, or eat food, and this man have the audacity to say that he wants to attract more mega wealthy people, build a metropolis for wealthy people while gating out the individuals of this country, the indigenous Caymanians who are suffering the most. Where is the initiative to help those people? Where is the motivation and the projects and all of the things to align to help those people? But you know what it is? It's because, well, if we build a 50-story building, some local people can get some work. Some man can drop some material, equipment, get some work. But that's in transit work. That lasts for as long as the project takes to be built, and then it goes away. We saw it at the Ritz-Carlton. We saw it at the Kempton. We saw it at every major development in this country. Show me one of those people that are still down at the Kempton making money, or at the Ritz, or at any of the major developments. Where they are.
I mean, that's so true. I mean, I went to the Kempton over Christmas, and they didn't have any Caymanians greeting me at all, But I think Mario's kind of hit it on the head, right? Like, what is the point of attracting all of this when to me, Caymanians are at the forefront of this, right? It's all about maintaining our lifestyle, but making it better. Because, like Mario said, there's so many of us that are sitting there that don't, are counting the dollar and cents. And to me, that we can't have this like strike contrast between it.
Do you think, as a country, generally speaking, that the people here, Caymanian, voter, non-voter, all of us that live and work here, do you think the majority of us recognize that, or are we completely oblivious to what you're sharing?
Well,
do you want to go?
You go first.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
I think it's a mix. I think that there are some people that understand it and there's some people that don't, and equally on both sides, like for expats and for Caymanians. And I think that, unfortunately, we've kind of struck a divide between Caymanians and expats, and to me, unfortunately, so. Because
I asked the question. Go ahead, Mario.
Well, what I agree with Michelle that those individuals who are benefiting from the certain industries that are doing very well, you'll never be able to convince them that there's a problem with the differential between those who those who are not a part of it and benefiting from it, as opposed to those who are. It's human nature for you to maintain the support of something that benefits you. That's just human nature. But it doesn't change the facts surrounding what the issue is. And it's because wealth has never been properly distributed amongst our local people. If the government had put all of these initiatives in place to ensure the continuity of existing business and new business, along with institutions and legislation and policies that ensured that the small man also too benefited from these things from a long-term aspects, as opposed to the 18-month in transit work that we get normally. And that's how it's always sold to us. It's gift wrapped. Well, Mario or Sterling, you guys can get 18 months worth of solid work for your equipment, and then we all jump on board, and then it becomes very complicated then to differentiate between those who are for it and those who are not. And for those individuals who has nothing to do with any of those things, period, who work in their own respective areas of profession, these people don't have the time to sit down to analyze what's happening around them, because they're so focused on maintaining what they already have and not losing what they work so hard for, that they're just not able to get up to speed with all the things. That's why platforms like this and movements like we have is important, because we can speak on a layman term, we can speak on an eye-to-eye level, where they don't fly over their head, because government love technical terms in order to confuse people, why they have not moved off the blocks to help small people.
Yeah, and sorry to kind of tag on to what Mario was saying as well too. Going back to the cruise port and the 26th September meeting, Minister Kirkconnell stood there and said that there was going to be 900 jobs. And one of the questions from the audience, which I stand to be corrected, but I still believe is unanswered. She asked for a complete list of the jobs and what was going to happen in order to make sure that Caymanians could fill those jobs. Because it's all well and good promising 900 jobs, like Mario said, that ends up being in-transit work, but also ends up being filled by work permit holders. Right. So this promise for Caymanians needs to be upheld.
A couple of calls online. Mario Rankin, Michelle Lockwood are our guests. Hey, it's a Friday. You want something to talk about over the weekend? Well, you better listen to Talk Today. Let's go to the phones. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mom. How are you today?
Okay. Happy New Year to you, Dwayne, and to Mr. Rankin and to Miss Lockwood.
Thank you.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Thank you very much for being on today, and please don't get discouraged. This is our island. We know nowhere else to go. This is our children we're trying to fight for, and their children. So don't let other people discourage you. People that would discourage anybody that is trying to fight for their country and the people in the country, you pay no mind to. Ignore them completely. To me, they're a bunch of idiots. We just had a warning just week before last, after Christmas or just before Christmas, of what that good Lord can do. And no computer can cut that off. Nobody in this island that wants that dock. I could tell a little short story. A few days ago, I was visiting my friend Beauty Salon, which is right by the sea. And in the salon was a dancer from one of the carnival ships. And she comes there every 2 weeks whenever the ship come in and do some things. Anyhow, they said they had to bypass Rotan, Coxon Hole, Rotan, where there is a dock because of the weather, and that is their dock. Say she's been with Carnival Cruises for 6 years, and she never seen weather like it. And Coxon Hole, Rotan, anybody that knows and have seen it, it's kind of sheltered. We want to build that right out there in the bleak. That is the wrong as wrong could be thing to do, because God controls everything. We have made it all these years and doing well with tourism. What we need to do is to build on the tourism, the tourists that we got coming here, whether it be by ship or whether it be by air or whether it be whatever. We need to build on that. We need more information out there. We need for the managers of these hotels, condos, and people that have tourism shops that deal with tourism and things like that. More information. That I come from abroad 2 weeks ago, and I'm telling people that there's 3 districts, like some hotels is doing 3 districts in this island. No, come on. We also need to get more sanitation. If you go in some of the restaurants, some of the bathrooms does not look good. In fact, I'm going to use just a blunt word. They look nasty. We need to do things, build things, not what McKeever wants and what McKeever wants to build on. We need to build up our tourism. You go in places like Rotan, the people that take you on tours speak several languages. They're in full uniform. They know all the information. You go places like Hawaii, it's the same thing. We need to build on that sort of thing.
Yes, well.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you for your time, and thank you both for being on Radio Cayman, the best radio station in the Cayman Islands. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And thank you for sharing.
I'd love to hear your comments, but without putting you off the trail, Susan reminds me. So, quick break, and when we come back, more talk today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
I didn't mean to hurt her. Work was tough. We're struggling financially. I had a few drinks to relax, but then the argument started. It was a mistake to hit her. Now I don't have a job. I don't have a wife. I can't afford to feed my family. This was a hard lesson to learn. Never forget that walking away from something unhealthy is brave. Stop the slap. Stop the cycle. Stop the violence.
The Stop the Slap campaign has been proudly sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Stop the slap. Stop the cycle. Stop the violence.
It's more than what we do. It's who we are. We were your official bank of the quincentennial celebrations in 2003. We were your Bank of the Year 4 times. We were voted as the inaugural top employer in 2010. We were the inaugural Business of the Year awardee in 2017. Who are we? We are Cayman National, your local bank, proudly serving you for over 40 years. It's because of you that our journey continues.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. In the studio, the good company of Mario Rankin and Michelle Lockwood. A phone call is in the wings, and Susan tells us. Good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Mario, that cassava cake. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
The texture of that cake reminds me of my Aunt Ruth. I haven't tasted a cake like that since my aunt stopped baking. Not a word of lie.
I appreciate your comments.
Oh, my God, Mario, that was a cake. But anyhow, I just want to say, you know, we have a lot of people here think, and I use the word again, think, that some of the people here in Cayman doesn't want to see progress in Cayman.
Yeah.
But that is not the situation here. We do need progress in Cayman, but we got to be careful what the progress is for the Cayman Islands and the size of this baby island, as we so-called, or what is it? Main pillar of income. The tourism is tourism our main income.
Pillar and financial is our two major pillars. Only pillars.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You know. So I just want to say that like Ms. Shirley said, don't let anyone discourage you guys. It is going to be what it's going to be. If we get the figures and they then turn around there and like do what some people have done, throw them in the garbage and come back and lie to us and so forth and so forth. And Mario, I know you're going to take a count yourself and a copy of those papers and put aside for when anything break loose. I know you can do that much. Huh?
I tell you now, we're not letting them. No, they're not going to derail a constitutional process. Not, at least not while I'm involved.
You know what I mean? I just want to say that you know, I was doing a tour on the eastern side last week, and we went to the blowholes, and I did complain to the gentleman in the glass house. I had made a list and stuff to see Mr. Moses about it, and he sent me then to some gentleman there. Can't call his name right now, so I went there with a list of 30 different things I see wrong with out here on the road, being an ambassador for my island. And one of those things was the entrance down to the blowholes. When you go down to the blowholes, it was a very pretty high step to step down onto the main ground. That was dangerous. I complained about that, and they went there and they poured another slab down to the bottom. That is all well and good. But that slab that they poured down to the very lower ground is like myself, like 2.5 to 3 inches, still too high for people to get. They should be on a more flatter level. That last step down to the ground to go to those blowholes, it is dangerous. We got all different age of people going down there. People taking the elders down and holding on with both hands. These people to get them down to that blowhole and so forth. I'll leave that there. That's something need to be done. And also, down there by the blowholes, it's a very busy attraction to visitors on the island by buses, by rentals, and by tours. Something need to be put somewhere in the area for traffic to be slowed down when they get in that area. Because if visitors are trying to cross the street, and someone are going to get hurt up there. I was there last week and I got in a blank spot. I couldn't see what was coming from east. And I'm like, and a car was parked up behind me. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I had to keep just begging myself out little bit by bit and praying that nobody hit me coming down from east. So really and truly, anyone in the tourism listing, you all need to go up to that blowhole and do something seriously about it, because we need some protection up there for our visitors as well as our locals. That's a highway that people are crossing to go and see a splash of water that is part of our tourism. Another thing, Mr. Mario, and the Pedro St. James, you go up there and you can't find nothing to the Cayman Island. It is sad. You got a piece of the Cayman night there at Pedro St. James, and one or two little baskets looking made from some sort of twist. But to me, it's not that real Cayman silver touch.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. And Pedro in the botanical gardens. I don't even want to talk about it. But I want to talk about the turtle farm for 1 second. Went to the turtle farm. My people wanted to buy a T-shirt. There's nothing there but a T-shirt to purchase at the turtle farm. They're selling hand mittens for the oven and towels for the kitchen and a few things for kids and some beachwear for adults. And all this fancy glass plates with gold rims and gold handles and so forth. Who's going to come abroad and buy them to take back to the U.S. or wherever they're coming from? They're looking something saying the Cayman Islands, which I think we need to find another way of getting Cayman Islands on these items here that's made elsewhere in the other part of the world, China and elsewhere. We either just buy it plain and sell it plain, and let us stop telling people it was made in the Cayman Islands. Because Mario, I used to work in gift shop downtown Georgetown, and if I didn't tell my visitors that my stuff was made in the Cayman Islands, I didn't have a job. And I tell my boss, I said, let me tell you something. In line to nobody to sell a shot glass for $4 that isn't made in the Cayman when I know it's made in Cayman.
Yes, ma'am.
You want to go buy a stick and put on it as your business or get it made from the factory with Cayman Islands on it? You go right ahead. But don't tell us to tell the visitors it's made in the Cayman Islands. Try and take off every stick and say China and everywhere else on it. That needs to stop misleading our visitors, because these people that come here, they may be cheapskates to an extent, but they're not a bunch of idiots when they come and spend their money. They're not a bunch of idiots when they spend their money.
Right. Thank you much, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you. I thought she's hit on so many points that I completely agree with. Like, first off, I agree with her first point about progress. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people think that our group is against progress and that we don't want cruise tourism to develop. It's not that we don't want it to develop. We just don't want it to develop at the detriment of our island and our quality of our tourism product as is. And what she said about driving across the road in East End and about crossing and how the speed is. I feel the same way about West Bay Road, because to me, West Bay Road doesn't have enough lights on the road and people are crossing, and at night you're coming right up on people and it's completely dark. But I completely agree with what you're saying, and I think we do need to look at our tourism product as a whole in a lot of different ways.
But what about those lights at the pedestrian crossing now? I know many people talked about it, but over Christmas, a lot of people on the roads, people who live, work here, people who are visiting. You go up to the light, you press the button, it starts to flash, and immediately you expect to cross. Now, is there a safer way that we could do it? That the light turns red and then you.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm wondering.
We noticed that West Bay Road has all of those pedestrians with the lights. Some other places starting to get them now, but with the blowholes in particular, that there's a lot of high-speed traffic that passes that area, and the blowholes has been well known for its visitation from tourists for many, many, many years. It was similar to at the Spots Beach, and I'm happy that Mr. Panton and his team had put in a parking lot on the same side of the road where the Spots Beach were, as opposed to people parking on the opposite side trying to cross that highway, especially on a hill where you can't see people crossing the road. So that was an area that was identified as very dangerous, and they fixed it, and I'm very happy that they did so. Same thing with East End blowholes. Now, when it comes to West Bay Road, I believe that is very easy infrastructure that could be put in place that could remedy all that problem. They could have overhead walkovers. We all know that there's not going to be a bunch of. We already let companies put bridges and highways and tunnels. So what's wrong with having a pedestrian walkover in some of the major areas where heavy traffic is coming from one side of the road to the next? That's just a suggestion. Yeah. But when we look at our tourism product, and I don't want to get far off the issue here, the reality is that when we look back at the information that is given to us based on all the questions that we've asked pertaining to the cruise port. Just today we read an article on CNS about the FOI that was filed for information on the details of what was negotiated, how much with the cruise lines and what they were committed to paying for the port. Now, I found that very interesting because we identified the cruise lines as being part of a bid on the 26th of September last year. No one came out to deny that. We know that was actually facts. Now we see where the cruise line now has committed to the government to finance a portion of the project. And then when you file an FOI and then you're being told by the ministry, by Mr. Strand-Bodden, by saying that the commercial aspect of it is more important than the public's input, simply because of the procurement process need to be secured. So am I to believe then that two of the companies, which is the cruise lines, who were involved with an active bid, has now openly stated to the government, which have came out and had a press release saying that they have agreed in writing to give us some financial commitment. Mm-hmm. Does that conflict with the procurement process? Because what happened to the other bidders who don't have them involved? Are they, let's just say hypothetically, they win the bid. Are the cruise lines going to still assist them with the financing if their company that they're not involved with didn't win the bid? These are the type of questions that comes up from these type of press releases from the ministry. And we fail to get any straight answer from it. So, again, I'm not going to sit here and argue the financing package because it could have been for free, Sterling. There are so many fundamental reasons why we shouldn't build a port. Like I said, they could have come up and said, hey, you know what, we'll build you a pier for free. I still have an issue with it. And I'll tell you why. Because our infrastructure cannot handle any additional cruise tourism. We have not done anything to remedy the issues that we have downtown right now as the problem exists. We have photos being posted up with damage to the dock of that little Nor'wester that we had. Oh, well, we need the piers. Can you imagine the ignorance behind that? Now, if you're saying that the port itself that we have now, which is not way out 1,600 feet in the water, if we saying that look at the damage that Nor'wester caused while we're here on land, what do you think would happen if it's out there in the 1,600 feet in the water? You don't think that it would be damaged as well? Don't you think that Mother Nature will damage even the same pier that they want to build? And their argument is, well, you see why we need a pier because we damaged the one on shore? And I'm laughing at that because they're not realizing that the same material that they build in the pier out of is the same material that the dock is built out of now.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's on iron shore. And it goes back to the point that the caller before had made too, because she brought it up as well too about the Nor'wester. And to me, right now, the other thing that's key about it is, and Mario says I do this all the time, but I'm gonna go back to the environment. Right now, that storm surge was that bad, and we have the corals out there protecting the storm surge. If we remove those corals, the storm surge is going to be worse.
10 times worse, and with a larger basin of water.
Yeah. Yep.
Because of the dredging aspect.
Let's pause, take a break. When you come back, more talk today.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
A Grand Court jury finds Customs Officer David Lobo guilty on a single count of being knowingly concerned with the importation of cocaine. Mr. Lobo was acquitted of the charge of conspiracy to import cocaine. He was remanded into custody and is expected to be sentenced in February. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, the White House says the U.S. president isn't going to back off as he meets congressional leaders for talks on the partial government shutdown. U.S. President Donald Trump is refusing to sign any budget without funding for a U.S.-Mexico border wall, which Democrats are adamantly against. The House of Representatives passed a bill to reopen the government, but the Senate has rejected it. Around 800,000 federal workers have been without pay since December 22nd. A Chinese robotic rover has got its wheels dirty after rolling off its landing craft and onto the lunar soil. The Chang'e 4 spacecraft touched down on the far side of the moon at 10:26 Beijing time, that's 2:26 GMT, on Thursday. Lunar Exploration Chief Wu Weiren echoed Neil Armstrong's famous quote, telling state media the event marked a huge stride for China. And Ellen DeGeneres said she will talk Kevin Hart into hosting the Oscars. U.S. comedian and actor Hart pulled out of hosting the awards in December amid controversy over homophobic tweets he posted almost a decade ago. In an hour-long interview on the Ellen DeGeneres show, Hart said he is evaluating his options. It is airing in the U.S. on Friday on NBC. DeGeneres also revealed she had spoken to the Academy about Hart and tweeted the hashtag Oscars Need Hart. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the good company of both Michelle and Mario as they join us. Michelle Lockwood, Mario Rankin, our guests. And listening to the conversation, look at a couple of the comments that were shared. I think people are generally saying, well, what are we doing today? How is it going to affect tomorrow? There is the economics. There's also the environmental considerations. Mario?
Well, I'll give you an interesting fact. And here's something. Here's food for thought. There are more than 2 jurisdictions in the Caribbean right now that charges 3 times what we charge per head tax. Think about that.
3 times.
Yeah, you got one jurisdiction that charging close to $50 or $55 per head tax. Let's put that in perspective, Sterling. We charge 17. So, let's just say hypothetically we charged double the 17, right? Let's just say we charged $34. We doubled it up. Then that would eliminate any need for any pair, because then we would be generating twice the revenue in which what a pair would presumably generate. Now, if you're telling me that our government and its entire core of experts could not even draft up on a piece of paper that maybe we should be looking at increasing head tax as opposed to billing a pair that could be at the detriment of our overall product, our environment, and so many other fundamental issues. Now, I would understand it if the government didn't want to take that approach if it had not been happening anywhere else in the jurisdiction. If we would have been the first to set the precedent, then I would understand the resistance to want to increase the head tax. I get that. That's just one interesting thing that we could have done as opposed to embarking down some 25-year agreement with a private company to control our port that we already own. I wonder if the people of the Cayman Islands is fully aware of what is at stake here. We are about to give up a port that we currently own 100%, a port that generates $25 to $30 million a year right now as it sits. And we willing now, and the reason why we're willing to do that, and I challenge any government member from any sector, from any ministry, to call into this radio station and tell me that this is not so. The only reason we are entertaining a private-public partnership is because we have a FFR. Because we already passed our debt ceiling. We cannot borrow any more money as a country because of the FFR. So we are entertaining, and the Premier could get on the radio and go all over the country to advocate and push that this is one of his key initiatives moving into 2019, when he has somehow forgotten the reason why we are forced into a private agreement for 25 years is because of the irresponsible spending of previous governments, including his administration. So we got to go now and turn over our already 100% own port that brings in all the goods that we consume to stay alive, medicine and food and clothes and all those things. We have to now go out and negotiate with a private company to take over our port for 25 years so that they can have a return on their investment, their ROI, and hand it over to them with the ideal that the cruise lines are going to bring in X amount of additional tourists that's going to compensate. What happens when they don't meet that number? What do they do then? They increase cargo because they're going to have full control. And then the cargo affects who?
Yes.
And then the infrastructure that is going to be streamed. Who pays for the infrastructure? The Cayman Islands. these are the fundamental issues that we should be talking about. Not a matter of all of the other things that they're talking about. We're not going to lose any market share of the cruise industry. We're not going to lose it. Right now, we should be focusing on balance in our industry. You know, we got 20% of our tourists making $600 million, and we got the other 80% making $154. But yet the government is prioritizing the industry that make the least but cost the most strain on infrastructure. So nobody can tell me, and that is comparing apples to oranges.
All right.
Okay.
Mario, Michelle, we do have another call online. For those who are listening, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Hey, good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my friend. How are you today?
Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year, man.
Yeah, good. Sorry, you know, I feel about this project, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to give for it. It better to me, no.
How so?
Yeah, better. My head to be no Sterling. Listen to me. I work construction for years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If it's summer development or capital development, Wisconsin come on to be, right? Say for instance, no, I work with Wisconsin, deal against it, no, the mangroves, right? Then she was supposed to be 5-story, right? The contractor slowed down, right?
Mm.
She went 8-story. They lost the contract at that time frame, you know, right? That was 2003 to 2004. I recall, and I worked 3 other phases. Come on, I deal against it, right? And whatever the retraction of it, revoking it, won't take away from it. No.
Right. But I hear you. Now, for the port, because you've been, you know, very much in favor, and thank you for being, you know, so willing to share publicly your view. But with the port, do you think the cost? You say is, you know, is a petty amount and so on, but the cost, the potential environmental impact, the concerns that others have expressed, do you think they're unfounded?
There's an affluence now, prosperity and wealth. Affluence.
Right.
Not influence, no, right? Listen, there's a buyer remorse. I know she got about 300 million or 350, right? More like that. So you have stored that for the generation, right? So it costs $1 billion. And the Chinese, I know who the table for it now, who the aces put the card table. The Chinese declining now. They are no seeing, right? But what you gotta do, you gotta Caymanize it. Listen, I in the construction for years now, right? My property in Kuro bypass, right? I told Mr. Alden, the supporter, I told him how the situation would do. They bought my house and they developed my property in Redeville Airport. They expanded the Palm Bay area, did it store by shoulder, right? And I hide the seeking now. And Sterling, for 2005, I've been voting every election.
Right.
I never voted for the Constitution in 2009. I put NA. Not applicable, and dashy, you will tell you. So, when it comes to development, it's sacrifice, give and take. Listen to me. We global warming. You know what convincing me, right? Next thing, Sterling, I know a lot of people disagree with the Speaker of the House, the story building, right?
Mm-hmm.
The skyscraper. All right. It's a dead scenario. You're the beat now. The more you elevate and incline, obviously reserve land, and you have to live and work. I know it's not extreme, the height, right, the elevation, but listen, you need work. Anybody have ideas? Or started for years, people vote for people. They want this party, they want our party, they don't want it. Whoever getting, they don't want people. Hello, you can't put people in pedestal now. You're born right there, you don't want to put your hands around here. You feel me?
Yeah, man.
Starting the report I make now, the Brexit thing, right? The Dutch, the Netherlands, talking for the argument. Norway is a wealthy country now. Norway. Yes, I know.
Right.
And Ireland itself now. Ireland. Northern Ireland is with the UK, it's Scotland. So you got to be careful you tread. And I feel the port, construction wise, and who knows how much entrepreneur. And what we're about is empty Memorial Church. That's what we're about. You know, this morning I went out early before sunrise. I was waterfront now. Look at everything. Took the phone after. I know she going through now, more like that. You know, if you don't go through, but I won't let you go through the project. I know. I sense it. That means 6.
Yeah, so you're going through.
Yeah, more like that. Yeah, it's listen. You don't want I won't know if everything came on, there'll be a petition or a referendum. We can put a referendum and the marijuana. There you do. You see what time it is.
All right.
All right, listen, have a good day.
Thanks, man. Thanks very much.
Just to kind of pop onto that?
Yes, please.
I've heard that before, that, we can have a referendum for everything, little thing. The point of the Constitution is it's of national importance, which is why we're able to trigger this referendum if we make the signatures. But you can't just have a referendum for any little thing. It has to be a matter of national importance.
Right. Now, are we, when it comes to the signatures are still being collected?
Yes.
And eventually be presented to the government, the cabinet? How does that work, Mr. Rankin?
No, you'll be presented to the election office.
Okay, the election office.
That's right.
Okay. And then, not to put you on the spot too much, but timeline, because the Honourable Premier has said in his New Year's message, we're moving forward.
The Honourable Premier can say whatever he feel like. But when it comes to constitutional order and being able to recognize and identify the importance of that order, the Premier have all right to say what he said, because he's basing that on the assumption that the petition will not be successful, or the referendum itself, if it is triggered, won't be successful. And in all fairness, I would say this, that let's just say hypothetically that we triggered the referendum and we went to a vote and it was in favor of the pair, then that's something we all have to live with. I would rather the government be in a position to pretty much pull the trigger, as opposed to having to go back and do all of what they're doing now.
Right.
Because then that wouldn't be in anybody's best interest for a matter of money and time. No, I only say all of that to say this, is that, and like I said, and that's just to be fair, I don't blame the Premier and the Minister of Tourism for going on and acting as if they're gonna, what they're basically saying, and then what they're forgetting to say is that, we're going to move along until this petition creates an issue for us to go to a referendum. So they're moving along like day to day, like everyday business, under the notion that the petition won't get the numbers in order to trigger the referendum, bearing in mind that if we do trigger the referendum, that they then have to deal with that.
Just from a sort of analytical perspective, we know what the Honourable Premier has said, Honourable Tourism Minister some months back said, 6 months' time we've got to put this to bed because times of the essence and those things, right? If the government moves forward this week, next week, and they sign a contract to build, they're very much convinced that they're going to move forward with this project.
Well, first of all, that they can't sign a contract this week to build because they haven't done any of the geological studies, they haven't done any of the any updated environmental studies, which hinges on the mere fact that they cannot start any construction process. So saying that is unfair to them and unfair to the listening public to give them any idea in their head that the government could sign tomorrow and they can start construction the next day.
Timeline.
That is not the case.
That's not the case. So timeline, they're not at that stage from your understanding.
No.
To move forward.
And I think the government is fully aware now that this petition is real and that it has a lot of momentum behind it, and that there very well may be a referendum. In our views, we're 100% confident that we'll trigger the referendum. The government has to act as they're doing day-to-day business as usual. So him making those statements and encouraging and saying that this is what we're going to do, that's not shocking or surprise to me. The reality is that the government is 100% aware, and they know that if they go sign any financial commitment with any company, like tomorrow or the next day, it would be irresponsible of them knowing what they know, and we'll hold them accountable for those actions, because even if, let's just say, they did sign something like that, which I don't think that that they're that irresponsible. In light of their past behavior, doesn't indicate that they wouldn't. But the reality is that if let's just say they did sign something tomorrow morning, and the next day we submitted, then whatever they signed becomes null and void until the referendum results come in. So again, I just want the general public to understand that this petition is moving along just fine. We're going to get the numbers. We're going to submit. Obviously, it would be absolutely unfair for me to say, hey, we have a timeline, or we're going to do it at this particular date. I believe that it's going to be in the very near future, meaning that in the next couple of weeks we're very, very close. And again, we're going through the verifying process. We ourselves has taken the initiative to go through each one of them item by item to verify. So when we do present it to the election office, that there's going to be very little mitigation in terms of excluding any signature. So we have taken it upon ourselves to go through each signature and double check and cross check with the election office, registered voters and the registration numbers. So, that process is now underway, and we want to make sure that when we do submit, that we are 100% confident. We're going to have, obviously, legal advice going forward with this.
Something that we want, you've clarified this before, respectfully, ask you to clarify. We've heard this from a number of people. And again, this morning, just asking a few people. Some are of the view that if they sign the referendum, a petition calling for a referendum, means that they're opposed or they're in favor. What does signing the referendum mean?
Or the petition.
The petition for the referendum. Thanks. The petition for the calling for a referendum. What does signing that petition mean?
It means that you want answers to some of the questions that still haven't been answered. It literally the line that we've decided to settle on was that it is a matter of national importance and deserves to be considered by the country whether or not we move forward. But it has nothing to do with whether you're for or against it, because at the end of the day, if you're for it, then go out, then vote yes in the referendum or however the question's worded. But if you don't, then it's even more important for you to go. But it's not for or against in any way.
The reason why I ask that, and it's interesting. I mean, you might say you understand why people respond the way. You might even be willing to accept it. Not quite sure that's healthy in a democracy, but be that as it may. Many people, I've lost count, who said they may be, opposed to the port. They may have questions, but they're not going to sign because their name's going to appear on this petition, and who knows how they'll be treated. Who knows what will happen. This is at the outset when you shared that, our callers sort of commended you for standing up. We seem to have people who lack the courage, the conviction, who are maybe not willing. And these are decent people.
And we have had people, comment on that and say that. And first off, we are being completely transparent about this, but we are not showing anyone who has signed. That is, we're not publishing this list in any way. So there's no way for people to know who signed it, who hasn't signed it. I know that there are some people that might be nervous that they're signing in front of Hurley's or wherever, but equally, Mario can probably offer his phone number if he wants to, but he's, we're mobile. We can come out. We can come to you. You can email us at cprkman@gmail.com. We're more than happy to come out to you so that you don't have to be seen signing it if you're fearful in any way. I know there are a lot of government workers that are actually quite nervous about it, and we've had reassurances from the deputy governor that there will be no repercussions and that everyone can sign. So that's all the more reason why if you're not a civil servant that you should sign, because we need everyone to have a voice, and if people are in any way nervous, or even just for the people that are under 18, it's very important to sign this petition so that we make sure that we can call it and so that we as a country can make this decision.
So, Mario, sorry.
Well, and to add to what Michelle said is I think that with the civil servants in particular, I think a lot of them won't sign it because of the fear of victimization or someone finding out that their name is on the petition itself. But I do think that they would play a very important role in the referendum, meaning that the referendum will be held very similar to an election, which means it'll be private, and no one won't know what you voted for in that referendum. So I think they'll come out and support.
From that point, and so I've asked a couple of people, over the last few weeks, who have, for whatever reason, say they're not signing, they're fearful of this or that. And one confided, he said, like to see it go to a referendum. He knows how he's going to vote if it is as, proposed. Now, he's in favor of a port. He thinks his, development is where he gets his bread and butter and all these things. And I'm thinking, and I said to him, and because of my incredible respect for who he is, right? So, why don't you say and do and stuff? Because you could perhaps influence the person who is opposed to it. Perhaps you can influence the person who is in favor of it. And he said, this is not a democracy. And the way his eyes almost fell to the ground. And that's fearful when you look at someone like that who has such a great influence over so many of us. and yet is unwilling to stand in the gap, man.
I totally agree, and I think that it's individuals like that who has taken initiatives to lead certain charges that encourages people in similar situations like he is to follow suit. What really tickles me the most, and I have to say this, because when I hear some people say, "Oh well, we are in favor of a pair, but just not in the current form of the information that is provided, like in a different location." I have to stop and pause, because, like I said, there are so many fundamental issues why the increase of numbers from a cruise tourism standpoint is going to be detrimental to the wider product. And if we are going to continue ignorantly to assume that increase in cruise tourism will not affect our stayover tourism, which is our bread and butter in the tourism industry. You see, remember, Sterling, all of the individuals who we hear pushing for the port are those who are directly involved with pre-existing contracts with the cruise lines, and I get that motivation. I am not wronging them for that. Okay, but what I'm saying is that they are disregarding the direct effect that it'll have on the sector of our tourism that provides the most revenue. So I am only saying, ladies and gentlemen, can we please strike a balance? Can we not destroy our overall product for the overrunning of another sector of our tourism? So whether we build a new port, whether it's in Georgetown or not, it is the infrastructural and the quality damage that will occur from the overloading. I have talked to many different people that come on cruise and people who come by plane. And the key concern is that they go to this place and it's overrun. They cannot get in. They can't do these things. Yes, that's just a few things. And of course, you're going to hear everybody say that these are their experiences. The reality is, Sterling, is that if we are going to go mass cruise, then we have to understand that it's going to potentially damage our stayover. And it's going to potentially dwindle those numbers. 650 million come from stayover, 154 come from cruise. 80% of the people who come to our shores are in cruise, 20% who comes to our shores are from stayover. The stayover is generating 3 times more than the cruise. Our emphasis and our motivation and our priority should be increasing our stayover from 20% to say 50%, so that we can increase those revenues, that we don't need the reliance on an additional set of people to generate revenue by hit tax, because we have just increased our stayover, which has filled that gap of revenue that we want to make in our wish list, and we have not cost the country any more infrastructural damage or strain by doing so. We need to properly manage and distribute the crews that we have coming in now. We need to manage and properly distribute the tours to the operators who are not on the pre-existing contractual list. We don't have a body of in our industry that protects every operator that is licensed in this country. Every taxi driver, every bus operator, every boat operator, every dive operator does not have the protection of one committee that says, listen, here is the number of crews that come in on a yearly basis. Here is a committee where all prices must be streamlined. It must be properly distributed amongst our operator providers. And that's how it should be.
All right. We do have a caller join us. Michelle Lockwood, Mario Rankin sits in the studio with me. Good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon to you, Sterling, and good afternoon to Mario and to Michelle Lockwood here also.
Yes,
Happy
sir.
New Year to you all.
Happy New Year, sir.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And I'd like to say happy 100th birthday to Governor Long.
Yes, sir.
Also, I'm personally acquainted with Governor Long for many, many years. And one of my dear brothers-in-law turned 90 years old yesterday, too. Wonderful experience for family. I just want to say this. With a referendum, of course, nobody brings about or wants to initiate a referendum except you want a yes answer to what your wishes are for the referendum, or why you brought it about in the first place. So I'm glad that how you present yourself, you're definitely saying that you're for that, and those who are against it, then they would be in the minority. You wouldn't want to bring about referendum. I've heard people calling in And I sit back and think, I talk to cruise tourists every day. A couple of days ago, way over 200 and much. And I know what their opinions are on many things. And one of the major things, of course, is that we have no peer dock for them to get off on. And that's what my opinion is, my personal opinion is really not so important, this. But there are two sides to every story. And we can always say that those who oppose your desires, or who will say, let's go ahead and build a pier, are the general feeling I get from people calling in is that they're almost vehemently thinking that they're against those people, thinking that they're anti Caymanian or anti the environment and so forth, which isn't correct at all. But the people must have their opinions, just like any other political situation, because this is political. It's going to the polls, the referendum, just like elections are a referendum, but the only thing is they're a referendum selecting people. This is on referendum and deciding an issue. So the other people who are thinking that maybe let's go ahead with it, let's do what the government says, they're reasoning things out. And I've heard a lot of people giving opinions on the radio, but I don't know if they're experienced in dredging or experienced as engineers or anything. I don't know. And I have talked with people who are experienced engineers and in dredging over many years ago and so forth. And I've seen developments in different aspects of dredging and different, because we did a lot of dredging here in the 1990s, 80s, and even in the 70s, a lot of dredging, and believe me. And there are ways to mitigate certain things, but that's not for me to say that I'm an expert on that, but I just wish we'd credit both sides of the coin with that commitment to Cayman and to Caymanians in particular, because what we've got to realize, 40 years ago, it's a completely different Cayman from now.
Agreed.
I don't know how many of you can remember. I remember it very well. Even go back to, it's a completely different Cayman, because we have 4 times or more the population that we had then. So it's a very different Cayman. Our economy is heavily based also on a different type of economy, completely one of our major pillars. It's not what it was at all, did not exist then. So there's a difference with all that to take into consideration. We're moving forward at lightning speed. So, therefore, there are many things to take, different aspects of this equation to consider. We are holding a referendum. We've got to remember one thing. It's a very divisive thing, because it's got to be one side for, one side against. Yep. And it's just like politics. It is politics. Mm-hmm. So, therefore, we have to think carefully about that if we need that kind of divisiveness now at this crucial time in our country.
Right.
Have a wonderful day. I listen on.
Thank you, sir. No problem. Mario, as we go to the break.
Yeah, I just want to say quick. I just want to say quickly that we will rather have a decisive vote in public because of the political parties. That's number one. Number two, for Mr. So when you talk about dredging experience, I worked on Dredge Cayman from 1995 to 1998. So I do have some experience in the dredging industry. I've seen it. I know what it gives and what it takes. So at the end of the day, when we having this conversation, we must take all things into consideration, as he said. And no one is taking credit away from those who are pro-port. Ever. We have even offered them to come to have a roundtable discussion. They've refused to come. The reality is that at least with the referendum, like Mr. Maker said, we'll know who are for and who are against. Not from a public standpoint, but the vote will then determine how many people, if it was a consensus that wanted it, or it was a consensus that didn't.
All right. With that, let's just pause for a short break. When we come back, more Talk Today.
At KFC, we believe you don't have to share a last name to be a family. Whether it's an office party, holiday fete, or family gathering, enjoy KFC's fresh, hand-breaded finger-licking good chicken. The KFC Festive Feast includes 10 pieces of original recipe or spicy chicken, creamy mashed potatoes, tasty coleslaw, and warm biscuits. KFC's holiday catering menu includes buckets of hot wings, sweet chili wings, or chicken tenders. KFC, it's finger-licking good.
This Health Flash is brought to you by Cleveland Clinic, Florida. Over 65 million people around the world have moderate or severe COPD, a family of diseases that includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis. Cleveland Clinic, Florida offers a wide range of management and treatment options for COPD, including programs focused on education, medication, smoking cessation, and pulmonary rehabilitation. A team of experts is ready to review your symptoms and test results to develop a comprehensive treatment plan. For more information, visit clevelandclinicflorida.org.
Did you know that the Department of Environmental Health operates a recycling program in the Cayman Islands? Recyclables such as number 1 and 2 plastics, tin and aluminum cans, cardboard, as well as glass and ceramic items are recycled on Grand Cayman by the DEH. Take these items to the recycling depots located at all Foster supermarkets, Kirk Market, and Hurley's Grand Harbor. Remember, keep the Cayman Islands clean. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. For more information about recycling, please visit DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Open the eyes of my heart, open the eyes of my heart. I'm gonna walk in golden stairs, 'cause I know my Jesus answers all my prayers.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Praise time.
There's nothing to go back to. Give me Jesus in the morning. For the God of the mountain is still God in the valley.
Shout with joy to God, all the earth sing glory to His name. Praise time. Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to this Friday edition of Talk Today. In the studio, Myra Rankin sits with us, and very special thanks to Miss Michelle Lockwood for joining us for a bit. And phone lines are open. Now, if you want to call, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. Myra, question on the WhatsApp. I'm going to read it as it's sent through. It says, afternoon, can the governor stop the cruise berthing facility if he finds out that the project is bad or even detrimental to the island?
Well, meaning if he can stop the cruise berthing facility after it has commenced work or after it's been built. I don't know which one, but I think that that's why this particular process is very important.
Okay.
Because the governor would then have an opportunity, like everyone else, to hear all of the facts surrounding the build out of the port the financing and all the different various moving parts of the port. That's why this petition is so important, because if we trigger the referendum, then it has to be a campaign from those who are in support, meaning the government and whoever else are in support, and then for those who think that it's not a good idea. So both sides going to have to come out to try to convince the general populace, the registered voters, that is, as to why either side has a better argument. So I think that in itself, that exercise in itself, will allow people to hear information that we're currently not hearing. So I've always said, listen, if the government is comfortable with whatever scenario that they have in their mind, or that has been talked about in their closed doors meetings, I would like to have that same confidence as a citizen, knowing that we're going to embark on this project, being the largest capital project in Cayman history, and that these are the reasons why they're comfortable with it. But for right now, all of what has been related to the public, it's just not something that I could get behind. For many reasons.
All right. We have a caller join us as you go to the phones. We have the good company of Mario Rankin. Good afternoon, welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, ma'am. Happy New Year.
This is Georgia Ebanks, and good afternoon to Miss Lockwood and Miss Michelle Lockwood, and to Mr. Mario.
Good afternoon.
And God's richest blessings for the new year on all of you, as I just told Miss Susan. I pray for all of Radio Cayman staff and their family members.
Thank you,
and Miss Michelle and Mr. Mario and you, Mr. Sterling. May you and all your family members be blessed by God in the ways He in heaven knows you need various blessings. And as I told Miss Susan, and may the three of you there and your family members have periods where you will feel happy. But if we were happy all the time, we wouldn't enjoy it. We wouldn't know what it's all about. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about happiness. I mean, that's not the only thing.
Yes, ma'am.
I haven't heard Mr. Mario or Miss Michelle Lockwood say anything about that in order to build the port to the dimensions that they're talking about. Some of the most beautiful dive sites out there in the town area in the water will have to be destroyed. I even heard that the Balboa will have to be moved.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that true,
yes, ma'am.
Miss Lockwood and Mr. Mario?
Yeah, yes, Miss Georgia. We have talked about the destruction of the existing coral that is left in the Eden Rock area and the surrounding areas, including the removal of the Balboa. We have talked about that at length on many other stations. That is, in fact, the truth, Miss Georgia.
But then, I mean, why bite off your nose to spite your face?
I agree.
Oh my goodness! And something that really upset me to hear that down at the Turtle Farm, you can't even find one shirt that has a turtle printed on it. And I have a red, lovely, not a bright red, but a nice shade of red T-shirt that my daughter Anita gave me many years ago, and on the front it has two turtles printed in white. In the name of creation, at Turtle Farm, and the people keep asking for T-shirts with turtles on them. Who is in charge of that area? They must be sleeping or in a coma.
I agree.
Anyway, let me stop running up my mouth now.
God bless you, Mom.
God continue to bless not just you who are in the studio, but people all over our island.
Amen.
Because God loves us all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mom. God
Thank
bless.
you, Mr. Arjun.
You know, when you listen to people like Miss Georgia, not just because of her age and her willingness or conviction, but you understand the wisdom and the passion and that appeal to us. National Geographic photographer Courtney Platt, who is, done a number of public presentations. We've had him as a guest, and he talked about the impact, the environmental impact, the potential economic impact of the, and you think, as Ms. Georgia used the phrase, cut off your nose to spite your face. I don't know, I was reflecting on what you said earlier about the tourist sort of makeup by air and stay over versus cruise, how much money comes in and the numbers. You make it seem simple and easy, and obviously I think it's to your credit that you have that ability to speak to that level, but is it really that obvious?
Well, it is, because it's actually printed in the business outlook that the Department of Tourism have. I mean, all information is there, and I think it's absolutely dumbfounding for me as to why the ministry and the government has not taken the initiative to focus more on increasing that 20% on our stay over to a higher number, simply because it generates such a larger number of revenue. When it comes to that industry, and again, I'm lost for words as to why, for whatever reason we were decided to emphasize bill and a pair to bring more people to generate more head tax, and then theoretically they stay on shore longer to spend more money. When we see certain statistical examples that say something contrary to what the government has somewhat portrayed to us. So I like to stick with the facts and the numbers. Those are the two things that, one, we have to share the same facts, and two, numbers don't lie. And when we come to that reality and we understand that for what it's worth, then we should be able to make a better informed decision and opinions when it comes to moving any initiative down the road. Because if I had the opportunity to engage in initiatives in order to enhance our tourism product or to generate more revenue from our tourism product, I would be heavily looking at extending the runway, increasing a better experience for air arrivals, trying to get more air arrivals and more accommodations, because that's where the lion's share of the revenue is being made in that sector of tourism, while maintaining a proper balance and experience in our cruise industry as well, because it has to be a proper balance. The cruise tourism is very important to us, because there are a lot of businesses and individuals who benefit from that directly and indirectly. So yes, we can't sit down here, because how much conversations have you heard the government make about extending the runway and enhancing the runway? I mean, renovating the airport to make it look prettier and not accommodate more people. Okay, that is doing something, but is it practical? Is it something that is gonna increase our air arrivals? Probably not. I just read in an article in the Caribbean Journal where American Airlines is going to be flying directly out of Chicago. Right, that's going to be one of their new routes in 2019. That's encouraging, because again, we opening up more gateways. Cayman Airways will have a hub in Denver. That again is direct access to the West Coast. So there are a multitude of initiatives that are being put in place, but then there's no accommodation, because we can't land. British Airways is getting rid of their old planes now. They're getting new planes, and we need an additional 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet to our runway in order to accommodate these transatlantic air flights. So again, my entire argument is that if it's the responsibility of the government to enhance and upgrade and upkeep and promote our tourism product from a holistic standpoint, then why is there no more emphasis on extending runway, getting more passengers in the stay-over capacity, as well as enhancing and upgrading the cruise passenger experience? I see multitude of photos from individuals who are pro-port about, look at this long line and look at this, and this is what people are going through. And I laugh at that, because they're going through that in other jurisdictions in the Caribbean. The problem is that if we want, and it goes back to what a lot of the callers has been saying, it has to be sustainable development. We have nothing against progression and development, but it has to be sustainable and it has to make sense. It should not be to the detriment of anything that we have going on in Cayman, especially not the Caymanian people. So when we have these conversations, when we talk about development, when we talk about increasing this or expanding that, it must be well thought out, and it must be a process that doesn't create any hindrance or destroy what we currently have. And when you hear somebody say, "Oh, well, you anti-development," I mean, look at Cayman. How can I be anti-development? Take a good look at Cayman. You know.
When we come back from the break, we'll ask you more about the petition, how to sign it, and if it has to be signed in person or online or and the like. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
The only bad workout is the one that never happens. Make 2019 the year you commit to fitness. Let King Sports Center put you on the right track with their Get Fit 2019 sale from December 15th to January 15th. 2-for-1 Powerhouse Gym memberships for $600 or a single membership for $325. And call them to find out how you can take an additional $100 off this sale price. 946-5464 or visit kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, providing your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs. Remember, fit is not a destination. It is a way of life.
Kirk Freeport would like to inform you that the Kirk Freeport Clearance Center in Town Center Plaza is closing for the month of January and will reopen again with a revamped line of stock in February. Our team are busy refreshing our stores for 2019. And when the Kirk Freeport Clearance Store is reopened in February, there will be a brand new assortment of products priced to clear from your favorite Kirk Freeport brands. Kirk Freeport Clearance Store, closed in January and reopening in February. Happy New Year from everyone at Kirk Freeport.
This health flash is brought to you by Cleveland Clinic, Florida. Over 65 million people around the world have moderate or severe COPD, a family of diseases that includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis. Cleveland Clinic, Florida offers a wide range of management and treatment options for COPD, including programs focused on education, medication, smoking cessation, and pulmonary rehabilitation. A team of experts is ready to review your symptoms and test results to develop a comprehensive treatment plan. For more information, visit clevelandclinicflorida.org.
Having a party at the beach or a team building exercise at the park? Reserving your cabana is easy with the Public Works Department online booking system. Create your account and use the online calendar to pick your desired date and facility. You can even pick the cabana you want to use. Look for your confirmation email, print it off, and bring it with you as proof of reservation. Enjoying our natural environment has never been so easy. Visit www.eservices.gov.ky to book your cabana today.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. That's the toll-free number as we enjoy the Friday afternoon company of Mario Rankin. And, you know, schools have sort of going back into session. Some are there, some come Monday will be in full gear.
Right.
And the reason why I say that is that a lot of our students are either going back to university or getting ready to go back. So they're either gone or they're going to be going. And over the Christmas, these students, high school students, university students, they're talking about, you know, what's happening, the Marcus issue, the port. They're engaged, they're involved. Some are frustrated because they're not, you know, eligible to vote, you know, the high school students, or they are registered to vote, but
abroad.
Right?
Yeah.
It's encouraging that they're, you know, but I ask this with respect to those who want to get involved and they want to sign the petition for the referendum. Is that something that has to be done in person? What's the process?
Well, yeah, so the petition is not like a referendum vote or an election vote,
right,
where you have postal ballots, which is legitimized through the election office and sent out through the election office. So that way the election office is comfortable with when a person have a postal ballot that it's legitimate. So with the petition now, it's a bit different because it's not a formal initiative by the election office. They're not in charge of this process. So there's no real way to verify a postal ballot. So if we were to have an online sign-in platform, it would be hard for us to validate that signature without, the person's physical signature of its originality, as opposed to a copy. So so it's that's why we have taken the initiative to ensure that in every person that sign is a registered voter and have proper identification when they do sign. So, it's unfortunate that for those individuals who are abroad, who aren't able to come home over the Christmas to get involved, who are registered voters, that it would be hard. But we did send some books to London. We had books in Tampa. We had books in Miami. So we were very innovative in how we got, how we reached out to some of our people that are abroad that are unable to participate simply because it's not an official election process.
Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I think to the students only because they study.
Right.
You get to learn from them. I mean, sometimes I get a chance to vicariously sort of attend a lecture because they're sitting and have to do the notes and they can share what they have garnered from it. And to see the questions, to hear the questions, they have to see their sort of involvement and their responses. Simply, the Barkas issue, the port issue, repeatedly, what's going to cost? What's going to be the impact? How is this? What's that? Questions that are probably being asked by many people. Respectfully, I don't have an answer. I didn't have an answer.
Right.
Someone said, well, obviously there's a plan because the talking is going to cost this, is going to cost that. But is there a plan that we know about?
Right.
So,
well, when it comes to the port and the Barkas issue, as opposed to what the scope of the project is and what it's going to cost. Again, with the port, our issue is that we're not seeing the information that is necessary for us to be comfortable. The transparent process hasn't taken place in that particular sector. Now, with the Barkas, no, I'm not overly familiar with the issue at hand.
No.
Other than what I read and what I see, simply because I've been really focused on this petition, and I want to maintain that level of energy on this end.
Understandable.
Now, but I can imagine that there is some submission to our planning department for the Barkas project. Hence the reason why the huge outcry of mainly the West Bay people and all of the other individuals who are on board championing that cause. So again, I don't know what type of plans have been submitted so that you could, have a look at to see, what the scope is and what could possibly be the tag number as to what it costs. I don't know. I just do know that once the referendum is triggered, that those students who are abroad will be able to have a postal ballot delivered to them, that they would be able to cast their vote and be a part of the process, even if they are abroad, because then it will be an official election process at that point.
Right.
So we just need to emphasize more as to how important this petition is. And I want to encourage the public to understand that we're not moving away or we're not moving towards any one side. Right. We want people to understand that this petition is a universal petition. All of who are in support or are against should be involved with this process because it gives them an opportunity to actually go out and vote for or against. Because if we build a port, all of those people who voted for can say, hey, you know what? I was part of that process. I helped get that done, and vice versa. So I think that at this particular juncture where we have come so far down the road and we have gotten an immense amount of support from everybody in our society, from every corner of Cayman, we have gotten an immense amount of support. And I want to give a huge thanks to all of the volunteers, all of the individuals, and I want to also give a huge thanks to those people who had the courage to sign the petition, and understand the importance of the petition, understand the importance of this project and the effects and the impacts that it would have. It's very encouraging for me to see that level of participation from such a large cross-section of our society. And that in itself mitigates the whole ideology that Caymanians can't work together.
Yeah. Or you have a caller online.
Yes.
Go to our phones, please. Good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Yeah, good afternoon, Sterling. Good afternoon, all the rest of the panel. I don't know exactly who's on it. I just jumped in, but...
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
And I think that,
Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I'm looking at an article in the. You remember that magazine? Did it call? It came on. It came on Compass. I think it was not a Compass. It came on what they call it. Western magazine.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
An article in that talking about this is 1975, May of 1975, and they talk about the development plan. Now, the title of this article, it might be what you want to go back so you can find it in the library. The title of this article is "Hasten Slowly is the Planet's Advice." Okay? They talk about population growth. They talk about developing too fast. These are the things that are going to ruin Cayman, because as the population grows, the crime increases. Whether these are the people who are perpetrating these crimes are locals or foreign nationals, but we have cases where foreign nationals have done that recently. These are the things that we have to look out for, but the problem is, what the good book says, the love of money is the root of all evil. And every time you hear them politicians get up and they talk, it's all about how much money we're going to make from this and how much money we're going to make from that. And meanwhile, we're going broke because they don't have no reserves. Like when Mr. Bartel, he was part of this development plan back in 1975. And back then, the politicians didn't control the assets of this island. That was controlled by Mr. Wassell Johnson and his group. And they would tell the politicians, because they always kept a reserve, and they would tell the politicians, well, guys, if you're going to do this or that, you guys have to decide which one's going to get what to do what. But they never let them touch that reserve thing. Now today, we're making these projections about how much money we're going to make from this, how much money we're going to make from that, and everything is generally based on banking and tourism. And let me tell you this, gentlemen, the day you see us get 50, we're not going to even get to a 50-story building. Just wait till you get the 20, 30, 40-story building in Cayman, 20-story buildings along that time, Mile Beach. And people can't walk up, and then I see them at night going to ring, and they got all of these, the cars are numberless. The people don't know where to turn because it's. Let me tell you, we are destroying Cayman, and the day you see us looking like Miami is the day we can kiss tourism goodbye, because it's not going to be here no more. People don't come here to look for all of this stuff they're trying to put in here. They came here because they could relax. When I grew up this was back in the 1950s, when they built the old galleon beach where the West End is now. I worked on that hotel, and after that was built, we had 99% of the staff was Caymanian. The people, the hotels provided transportation for the people to get to work. They did these kind of things because they wanted to, be nice to us. Today, you tell me how many Caymanians you see working in these hotels. This is the thing that is destroying this island, and Caymanians are now, a lot of them young people that you see committing all these crimes, and you hear the shootings and all that kind of thing, is a part of this whole scenario where we have neglected our people instead of looking after them and inviting people to come down here. But God knows is that something's going to happen here, going to straighten us out, because a natural disaster of some sort will fix them, because we have forgotten about God and forgotten about that way we lived back in the days when we looked after each other. And we could go to your neighbor and you ask them if they had something to eat that day. And if they didn't have enough, my mother or your mother would get up and go to that little pot they had in the kitchen and share with them. We don't do that no more. You see, that all you hear people talk about, this one is lazy, they don't want to work. They have pride. And so they don't want to tell people that they're the situation. But the thing is this, that until we stop talking about preparing things for the foreigners, the tourism and everybody else,
yes, sir,
we must look for Caymanians first and foremost. If we don't do that, we're going to ruin the island.
Yes, sir. Hey, thanks very much, sir. Thanks for sharing. And with that, perhaps good place to just pause and take a break for our news. When we come back, more Talk Today.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Headline. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
A 3-car collision sends 2 people to the hospital this morning. The police says just before 7 a.m. they were called out to a motor vehicle collision involving 3 vehicles, one of which was an ambulance that was in the process of responding to an emergency call with its blue lights and siren on. There was no patient in the ambulance at the time of collision. Police say 2 people involved in the collision received what is believed to be non-life-threatening injuries and were taken to the hospital for treatment. The collision is under investigation. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Tropical storm Pabuk has lashed southern Thailand with wind and rain in what is expected to be the worst storm to hit the region in 30 years. The storm made landfall at 5:45 GMT, sending trees crashing down into houses in the province of Nakhon Si Thammarat. It is moving across southern Thailand, affecting popular tourist spots. Hundreds of German politicians, including Chancellor Angela Merkel, have had personal details stolen and published online. Contacts, private chats, and financial details were put out on Twitter that belong to figures from every political party except the far-right AfD. Data from celebrities and journalists were also leaked. It's unclear who was behind the attack, which emerged on Twitter in the style of an advent calendar last month. And the U.S. economy created many more jobs than expected in December, according to the latest government data. Employers added 312,000 jobs, far ahead of predictions of 177,000. That's what the Labor Department has said. The unemployment rate nudged higher to 3.9%, but it's still near historic lows. Average hourly pay increased at an annual rate of 3.2%, an improvement on the previous month's figure of 3.1%. The dollar shot higher after the numbers were released. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us and enjoying the company of Mario Rankin. As we look at the cruise port in particular, but the idea of development and the balance, and we've heard a number of people reference even from 1975 development plan. Maybe we've missed the boat. Maybe we weren't, as prepared to make the sacrifices. But something I want to share with you, a quick message that came in during the break, was the idea that we can't undo. I'll paraphrase. So actually, I called in and shared it better, but say we can't undo. But if we made mistakes in the past and we acknowledge them, are we prepared now to see if we can, my words, maybe do things that don't impact us as badly as it would if we didn't do it? Now, he put it a different way, but his language is a little bit more flowery.
Well, is he saying that we can't undo
what
we can't?
What development that we've had to date is how I took it. But if we're moving forward and we don't like some of he didn't use the word mistake. That's my inference.
Right.
Some of the things that we've done in the past, are we going to sit back now and just let it happen?
Well, I think that at every point in history, at some points in history, we've had a transformation. Because we transferred from the 50s to the 70s to the early 90s. When you see that span in between. And then here we are again with that transformation. If you look at Cayman and how we have developed over the past 20 years, it's very interesting because we're not we're not in any resemblance of what we was 40 years ago. Things are changing. Now it's for it's for the Caymanian people, because we don't have any national strategic plan in place that sets out what our goals are, long-term planning and all these things. None of that stuff is in place. So we just kind of plowing away as we go along, and different industries and different institutions make up what they write these large papers based on consultants and their experts, and say, okay, well, we want to do this, but this is what it's going to cost, this is what it's going to take, these are the things that we require. And for a government who is so service hungry for money, because we're a service-based society, it's hard for us to deflect or turn away a project that's going to generate a large portion of revenue that goes back into the schools and the roads and the fire service, all of these non-generating entities, right? So when we look at our need for GDP to manage all the things that we provide for free, it's hard to turn away work permit fees. It's hard to turn away all the things that has created social issues for us right now, because we haven't had any proper planning as to how we're going to manage these things and at what volume and at what cost. Right. So here we are now, and I agree with the person that contributed the text, is that whereas we might not be able to undo what's already in place, but we should be very strategic in how we move going forward when it comes to development and everything else, sustainable development. We see the DART organization, who has done a fantastic job on whatever it is that they touch. It's done really good. It's done really well. It's done with no cost in mind. It's a really well developed development. But on the same token, if you look at, a lot of people may not be aware. If you look at Commander Bay, like where the cinema and stuff is, it was designed after Pedro Castle. When you look at the awnings and stuff. That's the influence there. Yeah. That's the influence there. Okay. So you see, that was mindful of the historical lens of what Cayman was. I mean, a developer with that magnitude and that wealth could have built an ugly old modern day building, but he built a building that was reflective of the Caribbean heritage that we have. So again, like I said, a lot of those things were well thought out. If you look at the walkways and the corridors, the wind blows in certain directions. They did studies. So you never have an area where there's just stagnant hot air. So again, sustainable development, well thought out development. We must take the initiative moving forward that, and when we talk about 50-story buildings, and we talk about all these things, there is reoccurring cost to these things. Yeah, 50-story building may save the occupation of land, but then you still have 50 stories that are going to be occupied by people. That people will now have an impact on other infrastructure such as sewage, roads, water, and all these other things, right? Garbage. So we have to be very mindful as to what it is we're trying to transform, because we want to morph into something that we can't manage because we don't have any proper strategic planning in place to take care of it. Then that's our fault. Because if we keep saying, well, let's just build all we can build, collect all these revenues that we depend on, and then at the end of the day, there was no strategic plan on how to manage these things, then we're left hoping that the private sector or someone in the private sector, I mean, look at the Cayman Islands landfill, Sterling. Let's take that into to consideration here now. Since 2004 Hurricane Ivan, the size of the dump has quadrupled, right? The management of waste has become somewhat of a disaster because we just collect, dump, cover it up. We have some level of recycling going on now, in all fairness, but it's not mandated. It's not a law. These are the simple fundamental things that we can put in place. We have the dump sitting there. We're talking about port and we're talking about all these different things, but yet we don't know what health issues the dump is causing in the surrounding areas until we do an air quality control or we do a groundwater test and all these different things. So again, we need to step back a few paces, right? Our tourism industry is striving very well. We need to increase our stay over. We need to do a better job with our cruise tourism and how we handle them and the experience that they get. Yes, I agree. But we also need to bear in mind that we have environmental issues by the dump. We have issues at the airport. These are all, and let's not talk about schools. Let's not talk about the educational process. So There are so many different things that takes priority over building a pair, right? That we need to be focused on, and then we can focus on we all getting together and collectively trying to figure out what's the best solution going forward for our tourism product.
As you shared, I mean, two things. One is this idea that more revenue, more development, but what are the impact on the associated costs for infrastructure? Are we measuring those? I mean, you were very pointed in indicating that we will get more of this, but more garbage.
There's a lot of residual effects that comes from all of these increases. I mean, we just saw most recently where the government went abroad to do constitutional talks and changes and all this stuff, and we creating a whole new ministry, right? That may very well be founded and warranted, but does it take priority over the average person in our country? Is it something that we should be focused on while our people are suffering? We see now where they want to have physical presence in these registered offices. That's going to cost an increase, not only to the operating company, but it's going to cost an increase of individuals who come to our shores. So I haven't heard anything that was negotiated abroad that was to the benefit of the small people, because if the government and their consultants and their experts are saying that, okay, well, if we do all these things to maintain this, it ensures employment in this sector. Okay, that's fine. But we must be able to balance what it is we're giving for what it is we're getting, and understand that if we're not getting a balanced return on anything that we do, if it's one-sided and a sector of our society is suffering because we've sold everything out so that a sector of our environment, our people can benefit, then what's the sense? Because you're only going to create social issues. Because if we haven't done a job, and the government only job is, and I've said this a million times, the only job of the government is to create a sustainable environment for all its people, right? So that they can all survive in the country in which they call home and they desire to live and die in. So if the government is out there doing all these things, which I don't have any disagreement with, in terms of enhancing, creating better business environments for our investors or whatever the case is, by all means, let's do that. But coupled with that, you must be very mindful of doing the same and taking the same initiative on making it easier for the small demand. Cost of living is a huge issue. Okay, minimum wages are a huge issue. All of these things that are tied to the hip of sustainability are not being looked after, simply because the lobbying dollars are not in that category. They're in the other side. And when we have all of these great efforts and leaps to get all these things done to accommodate these things, one has to ask the question, well, where is the great effort and leaps for the small man? Where is that initiative? Where is that? Where is all of that energy that we need? So, that's why I always say, that the solutions are not solutions unless they are applied. It's like education. It's like knowledge. It's no use to you unless you apply it. So we can talk about the solutions. We can talk about the things that we need to get done. But if we don't have the people who are in charge of implementing these things, not applying them, then it doesn't even make sense.
All right. When you come back, let's talk more about the cruise port referendum.
Yes.
And, share it with us as you wish. While your ranking sits with us, 949-8037, you can call and share your thoughts. Please stay tuned. Very short break.
It's 2019, and you know what they say, new year, new me?
Yeah, Bobo. For me, it's new year, new car.
For real? What you thinking of buying?
The new RAV4 from Bat Motors. It's one of the safest compact SUVs out there with enough room inside, which is good for my family and convincing my wife we need this. Plus, it's fuel efficient, fun to drive, and on top of that, it's on sale too.
Yeah, and I hear it's one of the best-selling SUVs on the market.
Cause you don't gotta spend more to do more. That's why I'm gonna get mine now, while they have a new stock to select from.
Do more in your RAV4. Save thousands on the all-new 2019 RAV4. Test drive yours today and see why the RAV4 is a best-selling SUV in Cayman. Available only at Vamped Motors, Walkers Road.
Talk today. The most listened to call-in program in Cayman airs Monday through Friday, 12:30 till 2:15 p.m. Listeners are encouraged to call in and share their constructive thoughts and ideas on current issues concerning the Cayman Islands and beyond.
Talk Today is proudly brought to you by Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy located in Countryside Shopping Village. Savannah Pharmacy, just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Headlines. With the latest headlines. All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us and join the company of Mario Rankin. Now, Mario, some have shared that as you talk about the call for the referendum, seeking signatures on the petition. As I asked you, but share with you a thought that someone said, just recently. Two guys were having a conversation. They went in a bar and I think they were just chatting. One says, not going to sign it. I'm waiting for the referendum. The other one says, well, if you don't sign it and there's no referendum, how are you going to have a say, yea or nay? And is that a challenge that some people are, for whatever reason, are refusing to sign, hoping that others will do it?
Well, yeah, that is part and parcel with the issue that we're having, where some people, there's a lot of people who are going to go out and vote on the referendum if it's triggered.
Mm.
That I know for a fact, and a lot of them going to be, a large block of them going to be civil servants, because at that point, their decision, whether they're for or against, would be private.
Yeah,
right?
and they want to participate in the democracy.
They wouldn't have any fear of someone seeing their name or whatever. And I understand that because, yes, it's unfortunate that they have that mindset based on past administrations and governments and civil servants alike being victimized for whenever they did express themselves publicly from a political standpoint. I don't know. But again, we need to shift away from that in the future. We need to work hard at changing that mindset within our civil servants. In fact, our civil servants should be at the forefront of any movement that is in the betterment or for the betterment of the Cayman Islands,
right?
Because they are the worker bees that are behind the closed doors doing all of the
signing this petition is only saying let's have a referendum to say yea and nay.
Yes,
there may be understandably civil servants who are a bit reluctant to sign who may refuse,
right?
But not to be defensive of them, but the people that just me, it's a small number that I've encountered who are saying I'm not going to sign it are private sector people. Mm-hmm. Now we all have a connection to government in some form or fashion, but they said, boy, child's on scholarship, I'm hoping to get a contract, I'm friends with John and I don't want to offend him, and these are their own perceptions.
I cannot disagree with them because we've seen the victimization on individuals who have expressed themselves either way politically, and that's unfortunate that we have people that that live in that fear simply because they do have a child away on scholarship, or they did depend on the government for some contractual agreement that they have, or somebody helped them out, or whatever the case may be. The reality is that until we get past that point, because there has to be some changes in the Constitution that protect civil servants from victimization, right? Because if a civil servant have a constitutional right to sign a petition, under no circumstances should they feel afraid to sign it in fear of victimization within their department.
Right.
It should not be like that.
Let's take another call as we sit with Mario Rankin. Hello, good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon once again.
Yes, sir. Welcome back again, sir.
Happy New Year to all the staff here at the...
Yes, sir. And to you again.
Also, I'd just like to say, my friend, Mr. Ackerman, my good friend, demonstrated what I've been saying, that the Cayman, he spoke, I know it very, very well, of 1975, 1972. We had a Caymanian protection law on the board in place at the time. We've got to remember that. That no longer exists when we talk Caymanian rights and so forth. We are grappling with a very different creature. I try to explain this every now and then to people. It's amazing that a lot of people have not grasped this. This is a very, very different man.
Right.
We cannot go back to that. I would love for it to do so. The young people know nothing about that. People on the age of 50 even say.
If I could, respectfully, if I could just ask, because I think we all agree with you that Cayman physical is different. I'm not quite sure how many of us, look at it in that perspective. But from the perspective of the change that we've seen, do you think we still have the values that we had back then? Or is it just that we've changed physically, spiritually, morally, in every way?
Sterling Green, it's a complete change. It's has evolved. It's a gradual process, and we have arrived at a situation where we look back and say, oh, the older ones will say, just like myself, I do it all the while and catch up myself. I'm talking to young people who know nothing about what I'm talking about, yet the conversation I'm speaking about is something I can remember, but it took place 45 years ago. I remember the smiles on people's faces. I remember the exact words where it was. It's irrelevant to them, but that conversation was very important to me because it's like I say, we have 4 times the population, and maybe more than that. We have no country has done that, so we have nothing to look to use as an example.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a minority as generational Caymanians. So when we're talking about we, I'm saying it right now, I should be saying, who am I talking about with a we? We're going to find that every election after election, 19,000 or 20,000, 21,000 people even have their own opinions in some way, their groups, their parties, etc., etc. They do their best. I've seen Mr. McKeever Bush do a lot for people, and others also. We keep blaming them. We keep finding fault with what their decisions they make. We keep doing this. We will always do this. We're humans. We will never agree with them. We'll never think that things are right for us. We have to come to a reality and a realization that it will always be like this. We'll always have problems. We'll always find fault with them. That is our nature as human beings. We will never be completely satisfied. If we can reach to arrive at a situation where we say, this is a compromise. Look at the example we now have. Everybody, I've heard them saying over the years, oh, if only they would agree in the House and do what's best, all of them together, agree and get together to agree. Now we have a coalition government and we are hammering them every day. A lot of people, when I say we again, I should take that back. Understand what I'm saying. It won't happen. We have to learn to try to be satisfied with what we have got and move on. If you're trying to improve the airport, they're trying to improve the seaport at the same time, the piers, we have a port, because we've got to realize what existed 45 years ago no longer exists. The cargo ships coming in then, you could put them on the deck of these cargo ships that are coming in now. Doesn't that say something to you? Have a wonderful afternoon.
Hey, thanks very much. And let's pick up the other call. Hey, welcome. Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. I'm back again. Sir, I watch on YouTube on my plasma TV. And now, sir,
thank you.
Yeah, man. Because you're starting to listen. Island based on 100 square miles now. Right? 76 grand, 14 a block, and the remaining 10, which is NIDA, they came on. Right? I hear the beat those Sterling. I know previous caller. I know him personally for years. I've talked to him about 5 years ago, since, right? But anyhow, you make good points, good values, right? Anyway, the world started, right? You have this spectrum of people in that graphs, you feel me, right? Yeah, but won't have their own initiative, right? And how I see started, like I keep on mentioning, my experience of working in certain job sites, it's compromise. Mr. Nick, I said that earlier on, taxman, compromise. You have to reciprocate, illustrate and show something.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Whatever the bidding process, a procurement, that's real workers, right? Money is not all. If you don't make money, it doesn't make sense. In a scenario, you know what I'm saying? Instead of the work out, but now, that issue, you don't want my backyard, you just put it about the backyard, Midwest, Southwest, Northeast, wherever, everywhere. I see last year working up north side, new construction, and up Lower Valley. If you go driving from eastern districts, vegetation, the cap down to north town, you should have capped it off a long time and put up million acres. And that's where everybody backyard or front yard, you know what I tell you? So how enjoy it there.
Yeah, man.
And the guest starting. Hello?
Yes, sir.
This is my year. This is my year. Nobody saw me. Right?
It's your year, man.
Won't believe me here about that. That's cool.
That's cool, man. Well, I hope that you be blessed, you'll be encouraged, and you'll be filled with wisdom. And what you say is you find conviction and truth. Now, Mario, listening to callers, listening to people who are speaking generally, I think sometimes we get caught up, not just the rhetoric, but we get misled and misguided by the persuasiveness of some. And I think the issue with the port, some are already decided, this is where I'm going to go, but they keep it to themselves, like you said. They're just waiting for the opportunity, if there is a referendum, that they can go and mark, which way they vote.
I got
what
I would
get there first.
Well, what I would like to say is that, well, first of all, I've never heard one single person ever say that we want Cayman to go back to what it was. I've never heard anybody say that. I've never heard one person say it. Even to those people who are pro old Cayman, I've never heard one of them say that we won't go back to what we was. I think we all know that what we are today is what we have to accept. But what we also have to bear in mind is that not because we have transformed to what we are today from what we was back then, that we should continue down that path because we already this far. Because at the end of the day, Sterling, we got to draw the line at some point and say, and no one said that we should stop development or progression. We must have a plan going forward, and we must have sustainable development. Now, when it comes to the referendum, I got one question for all of those people who say that the government is doing the right thing based on their mandate. Let's just say the government had engaged this referendum without a petition. From the very beginning, and say, you know what? As opposed to having all these public meetings and having all this rhetoric from the overnight experts and all the people like Mario, Johan, a bunch of them, let us have a referendum, let the people decide on it. Let's say the government that came out of the gates and say, let's do a referendum and let the people decide. Would people like Mr. Mickey be saying that we shouldn't have a referendum? Would all those people who are saying that the referendum is unnecessary and costly and that we shouldn't be doing it, would they be saying that we shouldn't have the referendum? Or would they be singing the tune of the government? Because who pays the piper? Calls the tune, right? So at the end of the day, right, it's very interesting to see how everybody have so much stuff to say when it comes to a constitutional right that is given to us under the Constitution by politicians who thought they were doing the right thing. So I am only now taking the PPM's offer up to write to a constitutional referendum. I'm taking them up on that offer. They put it in the Constitution. And now that we, the concerned citizens of this country, decides to move forward with a petition to trigger a referendum that was given to us by this administration, all of a sudden we're anti-government. We're not anti-government. We're saying thank you very much, Mr. Premier and your government, for giving us this constitutional right. Now we want to exercise our constitutional right, and all of a sudden we are the anti this and the anti that. At the end of the day, I would like to know how many stay over tourism, how many stay over tourists go to the Pedro Castle. I hear Mr. Mickey say that there's hundreds of cruise tourism, and that's wonderful, that's great. How many stay over tourists versus cruise tourism that go there? My guess would be that it's a huge comparison. There's a huge difference, and then that in itself is the problem. Because if we having more cruise tourism go there than stay over, then that's a problem. Because Pedro Castle is not in the Georgetown area. It's not in the corridor of cruise passengers. It's stationary in the Savannah area. And we should have more initiatives designed around our stay-over tourism, visiting places like Pedro Castle and all the other places that we have on our island. The reality is, Sterling, is that no one has cared to champion the cause to strike that balance in our tourism. All we hear is that we want to increase numbers, we want to build a pier, we want to do all these things because this small section of our cruise tourism is going to benefit from it. Not realizing, and when he said that they fixing the airport or they're renovating the airport, they're renovating the airport. Because if you go and put a quart of paint on your house every Christmas, does it change the capacity? Does it change the accommodations? You're just putting some paint on it. You might plant some trees out in the front. You might pave the driveway. You might even tear down the fence and put some hedge. It just looks better, but you're not accommodating anybody more. So you're not doing anything to the benefit of that industry. If we are serious about increasing our financial ability in the cruise tourism, in the tourism sector, if we are serious about attracting a wider variety and scope of people to our shores, we must be looking at stayover. We must be looking at extending the runway. Okay? The same potential loss of revenue from tourists coming here by way of ships not stopping is the same potential loss of revenue with planes flying over that can't land because we don't have adequate space on our airport. So yes, there must be a balance, and no one ever said that we want to go back to the days of fanning mosquitoes. No one ever said we wanted to go back to those days. Not one person. All we want to see, Sterling, is that anything that is done in our country is very mindful of the individuals who live here, who are indigenous to here. We have a situation where we are about to be stamped out completely. Every single piece of legislation that has been done in 50 years has been to the betterment and for the encouragement of everybody else except us. You think it's a mistake why we got 130 different nationalities in our country? That's not a mistake. That right there, the only mistake in that is that we didn't have proper planning, strategic planning put in place from in the 60s or the 50s when Cayman was transforming into what we are today. There was no real proper management or no real proper planning as to how would we get to this point without losing control. Because we could have gotten to where we are today and it would have been all fine, if we were benefiting from all of the things that are making money in our country. If the Caymanian people were at the forefront of those things and the wealth of our country were properly distributed amongst Caymanians. Because not everybody want to be the mega rich, People just want to be comfortable. And we have a society where we out there blowing the trumpet. We traveling to England. Alan should have just stayed in his office and emailed the UK. I agree to everything you're doing. It would have saved us a bunch of money instead of carrying 20 people. You understand? Because he went over there and he never fought for anything we wanted. He never changed anything for the betterment of Caymanians. You went over there to say that that you agree with all of these things. The OECD is going to always have pressure on us. And from that platform for beneficial ownership thing came up 2 years ago, we should have stood our ground. But we didn't, and now we see that it's an evolving door. But listen, on the 19th of the 19th of this month, we're going to have a meeting and a community event at the South Sound Community Center from 12 to 4, where we're going to be talking about various issues and all the different things. And I encourage everybody to come out and partake. We're going to have multiple speakers and people who are going to speak on the environment and different things. The petition can still be signed at all of the locations, the Four Winds, Savannah, Texaco, all of the Fosters, customer service areas, and we're still in various locations on weekends and through the week. Today we're going to be actually at Hurley's this afternoon, our home port. I kind of got that name. And we're pressing forward as usual. We got the mobile sign-in up and running where you give us a call or you send us a text. We'll come out to you. Just send us the address. And so we're pressing ahead, and we want to submit. We want to verify and submit within a few weeks.
All right. Mario, thank you much. And for those who may give you and others like you grief, I'm mindful that history is replete with examples of champions like yourselves who stand in the gap and try hard to ensure that there's social justice, a sense of fairness and impartiality, and people like us who don't do anything can know that we can benefit because people like you do much. So hopefully be more of you and less of the others who do nothing. But have a blessed, safe, enjoyable weekend. And all the best for 2019, man.
Thank you, Sterling, and thank you all for listening, and Happy New Year. And I hope everybody, be prosperous this year because, it is the beginning of a whole new horizon for all of us. Thank you.
Amen, man. Safe and prosperous and healthy and productive Happy New Year. Come back Monday for our talk today, right after the midday news and midday meditation. It's going to be a monthly mental health matters. Looking forward to Dr. Borden joining us for that. We've got For the Record on Monday morning, Miss Susan? Yeah, I know it's on again Monday. Reno Shine, Mr. OC is there, man. That's why he rides his bike. He's always on the mic. Until then, be blessed.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.